And it's a random grid for race 2 of the Sam Pearce Motorsport Clio Cup from Watkins, Glen. And what is the grid throwing up for us? In P1 it's Ed, so good position for Ed. Rob managed to get up into P2. Johnny T up in P3, followed by Rob the Bear and Dave the North. So those three guys normally in the midfield battle, actually right out in front off the grid. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. But what that means is in P6 Alex, P7 Russ, P8 Sam and P9 Graham, some front runners are in the midfield, all closely packed on the grid, but they do have to get past those other three guys. Let's see what happens. And they're away, and Ed gets a clean start as well as Rob. And in the background, Johnny T and Rob the Bear have come together. So a little bit of contact in the inside, allowing Alex to get past. Russ has gone wide up on two wheels. Alex getting away in P3, no problems at all, jumping a couple of places, and it's Rob right on the back of Ed. So Rob immediately onto the back of Ed as they come up to this long straight and the chicane for the first time. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? Ed on the inside, slightly compromised attack, so similar braking, but Rob much smoother through there. And behind them, Alex is getting a good view of what's going on. And nicely done by Alex, good to see him back at the front. He is on a controller rather than the wheel, so you will see the tap steer technique, which means the steering wheel is flicking around a lot more than and less smooth than when you're on a proper wheel. Rob a little bit tighter and smoother there. Right on the back of Ed as they come round to start another lap. Sam out in P4, a little bit of fresh air onto the back of Graham. Russ not letting him get away. David the North has dropped down to P7, and Rob the Bear holding on in P8. So good driving from everyone, nice and safe. Rob right on the back here, along with Alex in P3, and the Beast down in P4. As Ed stays on the inside line, Rob on the outside, so it's going to be about who breaks here. Rob's just in front. Is he going to manage to make that move stick? He is, so a great move there by Rob. Fantastic bit of driving. Ed a little bit more ragged and straight away onto the back as Alex runs a little bit wide, and that's given the Beast an opportunity to use the double slipstream all the way down the straight and send one up the inside of Alex on the exit there, and a great piece of driving. Graham in P3, so Ed back up the inside on Rob. Manages to make that move stick, and in the background we just see Alex sliding a bit wide, unfortunately dropping off the back. But Graham nicely onto the back there. Very nicely done indeed. As they all come down now, nose to tail. Top 5 covered by just 1.5 seconds, so it is a group of 5 and then Russ just off the back, so probably a group of 6. So normal service has been reduced to some degree. Probably the only person who's not in here who should be is Scott, and these guys are really nose to tail. And great racing ahead. Ed out front, Rob muscling his way past there on the inside. So a great bit of driving by Rob. Not letting the Beast him, giving him a bit of his own medicine. And probably the person who's going to benefit the most from this at the back is Alex in P4. As they all come down at higher speed, given the tow. Ed out front, Rob in P2. Coming up the inside, side by side. Definitely a group of 5 now, quite literally nose to tail. Sam's now joined on the back of that. Alex has got the inside, just drifting a little bit wider. Sam's got the best line of the lot at the back there. Alex going wide again. Is that going to give Sam a chance to move past Alex? As they come down side by side. Five cars, all out front. Ed's just up the inside. Looks like Rob's trying to stick one on him, but he's gone wide as well. And he's pushed Ed into the walls. Ed made a mistake, didn't see if there was any contact there. 3 abreast down into turn 1. Graham's out in P1. Looks like he's got the whole shot, but he hasn't necessarily got the best line. Sam has a little look at the back. Braking. Who's going to make the turn? Alex has kept it under control, which is a bit surprised. Sam moves to the inside again. Has he got the better of Ed on his outside? A little bit of contact there from Alex, and he nudges the rear quarter, unfortunately, there of Rob, and puts him into the barrier, and Kiwi Russ is on the back of that. So Sam very smoothly up into P2. And that enables Russ to move up into P3 with Dave of the North in P4. So nose to tail, something had to give. It's really tight up there. I don't know if that was anything particularly that drivers could do about it. Some people just a little bit quicker than others. And Ed recovering back into P6. We've robbed the bear behind him in P7. So Sam trying to track down Graham, with Russ hanging on the back there. So another solid performance by Russ, and Graham out front. Just got a little bit of a gap, and then these two battling out for P2 and P3. And from right down the back of the grid, Scott has managed to move himself up into P5. So a great first 5 laps there from Scott to get up into that position. And Paul on the back of Ed, with Rob the Bear just out in front. So Rob the Bear in the new livery red car, with Ed just behind him, and Paul following up in P8. And behind them, Robert Lewis has recovered down into, or is now recovering from a lowly 9th position. So just in the background, having got past Johnny T, Rob's got another recovery drive. They move up into the hairpin. Nicely taken by all three, so status quo will be the case there. And as we look out the front, it's Graham who's managed to pull away a 0.7 second lead, so not necessarily getting any further away from that. And Russ right on the back bumper of Sam, hanging on in there. And Dave of the North in P4, so well done to Dave for hanging up. Russ has a little look to the inside, too far back to really make it stick. He's got a nice drive out of the corner, and these two not letting Graham get away in front. Also really close now between Rob the Bear, Ed and Paul. So Ed pressuring Rob as much as he possibly can. Rob just holding on to that position, some nice driving. We do know that he really does want to get some good points in his first opening points of the season. His results haven't necessarily reflected his ability, and it's been frustrating for him. As Ed moves to the inside along the straight, is he going to try and make a move into the hairpin, into the chicane rather? No, they go back into formation. As Rob goes a little bit wide on the exit curb there, cuts the grass, but manages to turn it back in, no problem. So come down to the fast left-hander once again. Rob going a little bit wide, and that sent Ed off, and that's enabled Paul to get up the inside. So Paul taking advantage of that. Is he going to get a run now on Rob as they come down into turn 1? Ed's right on the back of Paul now. Maybe Ed's just going to sit back and see. No, is he going up the inside? Paul has a little look. Goes defensive, doesn't let him in. So it's Rob out in front of Paul, with Ed just behind in the purple and white car. As they come along this straight, once again, Ed looking to the outside, cuts back to the inside. Rob, seeing what's going on, has moved back onto the traditional line. All three of them weaving around a little bit. Are they going to get through the chicane? Yeah, they get through the chicane. Nicely done. Rob using his traditional, I'll take a bit of grass on the exit of the chicane line. Round into the fast right-hander. Coming along the straight once again. Not really an opportunity to overtake here. All three nose to tail. Ed can't really get away past. He does have the better line there as Paul goes a little bit defensive, turns in a bit easier. But he's also right onto Rob's bumper. So is he going to try and make a move onto him down into T1? He moves to the inside. He looks menacing. What's going to happen here? He does. And Ed gets caught out by the braking of Rob. And Rob's now back up the inside of Paul. So Rob retakes the place. Paul going in a little bit hotter, trying to stick out the inside. Memories of their Fiesta versus Civic battle from Donington Park into Redgate of just 2 years ago. As Paul moves to the outside again. Rob holds a defensive line on the inside. A little bit of braking earlier there from Paul. Paul sliding the car, losing a little bit of time on Rob there. So Rob just getting away a little bit. And what's going on out the front? It's Kiwi Russ who's managed to get past Sam. And 0.7 seconds off the back of our race leader, Graham. So is this going to be a double for Graham? As we rejoin the Paul and Rob battle. With Ed just dropping off the back there a little bit now. And a bit further down, Rob Lewis in P10 is now closing up on Alex in P9. So not the drive that we wanted for him. But still the closest battle on the track is Rob the Bear and Paul Harvey in P6 and P7. Nose to tail as they come up the hill once more. This is what we like to see in the Clios. Battles throughout the whole of the field. There's an opportunity for Paul. Rob's defensive on the inside. Seems to be quite neat and tidy in general through here. Paul a little bit more slidey than Rob, and that's enabled him to get away. So let's go to the front now as Graham's pulled off to take a penalty, slowed down, and that's enabled the opportunity for Russ to slip past, and Sam into P2 and Graham back into P3. So a critical part of the lap of the race, and lap 10. Does that mean that the beast is going to have a go back? Looking a little bit slidey in the rear end there. Kiwi Russ, who off of a podium position in the first race, and Sam just finishing just outside that top podium positions. Certainly shown pace and consistency and the confidence of that second race win at Brands Hatch last time out. Kiwi Russ being tracked down by Sam. Graham just seems to drop off the back a little bit there, so he obviously had some sort of penalty or infringement. Rather than take the penalty, he wanted to just bleed out the throttle and let these two guys pass. But that does mean that we're in for some exciting racing for the next 5 laps probably, which is a 20-minute race, around about 15 laps completed in the first one. So there's no reason why it would be any different in this one. And these three are bunching up. They are definitely getting closer. Scott's 8 seconds off the back, followed by Dave, who's hanging on in P5, and then Rob the Bear and Paul. But although that's the 6th and 7th that we've been seeing a bit of, this is definitely where the battle's going to be out the front. So this is going to be a fantastic last 5 laps between Kiwi Russ in your white car at the front, Sam Pearce, our series host and sponsor, in the silver car in P2, and Graham, who we know has got the outright pace probably over these two in P3, but he can be ragged and he can get penalties. Is that going to hurt him at some point? We'll wait and find out. As Sam looks up the inside of Russ there, they're now 2 abreast, side by side. Almost 3 abreast as Sam comes up the inside. He's got the preferential line. Russ is on the outside. Now back on the inside line. That's enabled Graham to have a little look, but he is sliding around. It is more bumpy on that side of the track. And Sam's got a great run out of those 2 corners. A great piece of driving. And who's at the back there? It's Graham who's going to get the benefit of the slipstream as they come side by side. How's Sam going to do as he comes into the hairpin? A little bit of contact, which pushes Russ onto the grass, but he's managed to scoop it up. But that's giving Sam a chance to take the lead and pull away from these two, and Graham's got an hour run at Russell. So some fantastic, exciting, entertaining driving at the front. Sam Pearce takes the lead for the first time in this race, with Graham in P2 and Kiwi Russ in P3. All broadly similar on pace. Graham probably just has the outright edge on overall lap time, but not by much. And he is prone to making the odd error here and there. So Sam normally tidy and consistent and will be difficult to pass. He will not be letting Graham pass easily, but Graham gets a run down to the first corner. Has a little look, but tucks in behind Sam. Neat, tidy, just takes a bit of curb. That's pushed him wide. It will definitely hurt his momentum. And that means that Graham's moved up onto the inside. So a repeat of the move that Sam did on Russ the previous lap, Graham's now doing to Sam. And that's given Russ a chance to close up on the back as well. So side by side, Sam and Russ now comes up the inside and he goes from P1 to P3, with Graham taking P1. And Russ now having a go at P1 as well. So the action is back and forth between these three. He's having a little look. Russ going a little bit wide. Graham keeping it neat and tidy. And Russ right on the back of our race leader. And Sam just dropped off a car length or two there, but the slipstream to hopefully drag him back up sooner than later. So Russ looking very, very racy on lap 12. 12 completed laps. So this is 13 laps. Probably only 2 or 3 laps to go. Nose to tail once again. Russ looking very racy. And is he going to make a move into this right-hander? He's up on the inside. Difficult place to pass. He's slid the car, lost a bit of momentum, and that's enabled Sam to get a run at him. And probably the preferred line on the inside, so side by side down into the tight T1. If Sam can get it tight and brake and turn, he may well be able to make this move stick. Russ has gone round the outside, and Sam tucks in nicely. So good defensive driving there by Russ. Sam not really able to make the most of that opportunity there, but he does have to brake heavier because it makes the turn tighter. So all while this is going on, Graham has just made a couple of car lengths off the front. But the slipstream will come into play down the straight as it has lap after lap. This is our second race, our 28th lap overall, and we will see that Russ is coming back up and Sam's getting the benefit of the double toe as well. So they bunch up one more time. And Graham's very slidey, as is Russ, and the tidiest of the three is Sam, and Graham's gone wide. Holding on to that, that's a great piece of recovery driving, but it's put him from P1 down into P3, and Russ now takes the lead, and Sam nips up into P2. So that mistake there by Graham, a great piece of recovery driving, has just lost his momentum and enabled him to go from P1 to P3. It could have been a lot worse in the background. Scott is off of this group, and I don't think he's going to really be in the last bit of it. So as they come along, Russ goes a little bit wide, hits the curb. Hasn't really impacted him too much. Graham's now on the back of Sam in P2. So Graham in P3 and the monster livery car just putting Sam under pressure. Just one car length between each of them. So nose to tail once again. The straight coming up is probably going to be the deciding moment. And as we know, the people that make the least mistakes tend to be the people that do well. And Sam just takes a bit of curb there. And that means the beast gets right up behind him. Just a little tap on the bumper. Nothing wrong with that. It's fair racing. There's not much he could do about it. But the person who's probably going to get the double toe along here is actually Graham. And he's already had to bleed out the throttle a little bit because he's making up some time. So nose to tail. Properly nose to tail. Russ is probably in the worst position of the three. He's going to have to go defensive on the inside. Sam's already got a run and a bit of a toe. Graham, on the other hand, has got the double toe from the two cars in front, and he's going to come flying up as well. So they're side by side into the chicane. Russ has gone in hot. Great piece of driving. For some reason, Sam's just dropped a car length off there, and that's given Graham a chance to get up on his back bumper. And Russ really did take that corner well under great pressure. Great piece of driving. A little mistake from Sam maybe, or just some different braking because of where they were. And that's just enabled Graham to get up on the back of Sam. Once again, three cars are nose to tail as they come through here. No mistakes from any of the drivers. Probably one more lap to go. If the last race is anything to go by, and it's Russ out front, followed by Sam, followed by Graham. As we cross the line and start lap 15, and we go once again. These three clear out the front. These are for the podium positions as you watch it. Maybe the last lap of the race. Graham getting a good drive in through there. Sam just losing a tiny bit. They are a little bit more spread out than they were this time around. So Russ has just cleared off a little bit at the front. Got a couple of car lengths. Is that going to be enough to break the toe, or are these two really going to track him down as they come along this long straight? Is this the last lap or is it the penultimate lap? We don't know because the clock's ticking down and I can't see it on the commentary. As they come down to the chicane for possibly the final time, Russ is being really defensive. Sam's made a good run there. Going a little bit wider, carrying a lot of speed in. Cuts across the grass and Graham cuts across the grass as well. Good recovery. Graham's right up on the back bumper of Sam. Russ is just hanging on out front as they come along the start-finish straight yet again. Not the start-finish straight, I come out of that along the back straight yet again. I'm getting too excited, losing myself. 3 abreast. Russ just out in front. Sam going to try and make the move stick into the left-hander. And he does. He just makes a bit of contact on Russ. And that's enabled Graham. And Graham goes wide out the outside. And Sam just gets a nudge. And he bounces out of P2 into P3. Russ is going across the line in P1, is he? Graham's got a good run. Sam P3. And Graham's pulled out. Graham's pulled out. And it is Russ who comes across the line in P1. Sam Pearce crosses the line in P2, and unfortunately for Graham, he is not able to make that P3 stick because he has been given a 30-second time penalty. So moving up into P3 and taking the podium position, although he actually was 8 seconds off the lead, was Scott in P3 in the Pro-Am Racing. Dave of the North is in P4, so a great drive by Dave to get all the way through that. Ed finishes in P5. Rob, his first points of the season. We're pleased to see him. The change of livery did bring him a change of luck. Rob, then Alex, then Rob Lewis, then Paul, then Graham. So after 5 weekends and 10 races, our championship has really closed up. And out front in P1 is the man in your camera shot, Graham, with 150 points, and just 1 point behind is Rob Lewis. So after a couple of weeks of mixed results, Rob has dropped a little bit and just moved down into P2. In P3, it's Kiwi Russ with 125 points. Ed, after some mixed results today, has ended up in P4 with 120, and continuing his move up the table, Sam Pearce in the silver and red car is now up to P5 with 118, and Scott Thompson in the Pro-Am Racing Blue Clio is now in P6, and those are really tight together with really anything to play for. And despite not entering this round again, Matt is still in P7 on 80 points, closely followed now by Alex in P8 with 76, and a little bit further down, Dave of the North has managed to just extend his lead slightly over Paul with 32 points in P9, and rounding out our top 10 is Paul in P10. Next time we move to the circuit Portimao in the Algarve, a very different track to this one. There are some fast sections, but there's also some tight technical sections. And will it be our series leader as we go into that round who moves once again into a further extended lead? It's Graham out on 150 from Rob in P2 with 149. Everything to play for and just a few races left.